Hi everyone, good morning. Hope everyone's doing good. We are going to just start the session now. I have Sunny here with me who's going to take the presentation today. Sunny, can you hear me?
Hey, good morning, Subi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'll ask you to take over now. You can start with the presentation. And if anybody has any questions, you can write it in the question and answer block on the side, and Sunny will take your questions at the end. Thank you. Over to you, Sunny.
Yeah, thanks, Subi. Good morning, everyone. As Subi mentioned clearly, my name is Sunny. I'm working in Redington as a pre-sales engineer and taking care of Veeam pre-sales. Uh, as most of you are already aware that Veeam is an company which is doing data protection and cloud management, and in February they have means Veeam is a very old company and most of you are already aware of the Veeam product portfolio. So what I'm going to do today, I'll start it with the brief intro of Veeam, which I believe most of you are already aware of it. Then the most interesting part, which is the new features of Veeam. So this time in the new release, Veeam had introduced almost 150 new features, out of which couple of the bullet features are very interesting and lots of enterprises are loving it. So we are going to do a brief overview of those features. I'm not covering all 150 features, but I'll cover most of the good features, most of the loved features by the industries, and then I'll try to give you a small demo of one of the feature which had been released recently. And then we'll take your question and answer, and I'll try to answer as many as questions as possible. So let's begin the session. uh, what is Veeam? Why Veeam? What is the vision of Veeam? What Veeam does? So, if I say, like in maybe past 2 3 years, Veeam vision is to become a number one company in the cloud data management production. Veeam is already doing great in the virtualization platform. They are already doing great in the physical world platform. They are also doing great now in cloud integration platform, right? So what does it mean? Why Veeam, first of all? So the first and foremost feature which everybody loves it, whether it's a partner, whether it's an end customer, it's Veeam is very simple. When I say simple, it means it is very easy to install, it is very easy to scalable. It is like it's a tool which anybody can install it and configure it and use it according to their requirement. And along with it, when I say simple, it does not mean it's a very simple product. It can be installed for the smaller infrastructure. It's an scalable product which can be installed on uh, high level infrastructure. It can be installed on multiple servers. It can be installed on single server. It is a modular based software which can be installed according to your requirement. So uh, in an overview, in all, it's a very simple product. It's easy to understand. Everything is GUI driven. If I may say that, in 10 or 12 clicks your entire Veeam is installed. Yeah, it's next and it's done. So this is how easy it is to install and configure. Then in terms of flexibility, flexibility means with the same console, uh, one single simple console, I can manage multiple workloads, right? When I say multiple workloads means I can manage your virtual, I can manage your cloud workload, I can manage your physical workload from the same console with the same one single server. It's very flexible to install. uh, you can use the data which is being backed up by Veeam in multiple ways. You can leverage that data. What does it mean? Means the data which you are backing up using Veeam, that data can be utilized for some other purposes. For example, if you want to create a testing environment with that data, you can do it. If you want to do data mining using that data, that can be possible using Veeam backed up data. So all those things are possible. If you want to do some migration from on-premise to cloud, that is also possible, which means that it is very flexible. Veeam is not locking you in its own format. Veeam is saying that once you have done the backup, it can be restored in any platform. When I say any platform, whether it can be restored on virtual platform, it can be on cloud platform, it can be restored on physical platform. Everything is flexible. Veeam is not locking you with anything. Then the most important part for any organization is the reliability. Means we are simple, we are flexible. What about the reliability? Means if you see Veeam overall in the coming years, if you see the Gartner reports, if you see the NPS score of Veeam NPS score is 75, which means that in terms of support, in terms of reliability, each and every customer is loving it, and they don't have any bad things about. Reason being, why is it so reliable? Because it never fails. It provides you in flexibility that the data which you're backing up using Veeam is 100% recoverable, using lots of features which most of you are aware of it, and the guys who are not aware of it, Veeam does an instant VM recovery, Veeam does share backup, Veeam does Replica. These all are the features of Veeam, which gives you a flexibility, which gives you an 100% surety that the data which you are backing up using Veeam is 100% recoverable whenever it is required. So, in all, Veeam is, these are the three main pillars of Veeam, which makes Veeam a standalone product in the market, which gives you all those three features in much simpler, flexible, and reliable way. So, in all, Veeam gives you a data protection of your entire company, of your entire data center, which is 24 by 7 by 365. Right. So, if I have to sum it up everything, the previous notation of Veeam was Veeam that it just works. Yeah. So, what Veeam does? Veeam does, if you see in my slide on the top, there are four workloads. So first one, cloud, then SaaS, then virtual, then the physical. So if I talk about the first three workloads, excluding software as a service, the cloud workload, the virtual workload, and the physical workload, everything will be managed by one single Veeam backup and replication console. Right? If you see in the middle, there is one tab called backup and replication. This is the main heart and soul of Veeam. This software does backup as well as replication of your environment, which includes either a cloud, a virtual, or the physical environment. What it means that I can manage all these three workloads from one centralized single console, and I can manipulate, I can transport the data in between all these three controls, all these three workloads. I'll explain this in detail in coming slide. What does it mean when I say export the data or migrate the data? So if we talk about the cloud, generally in today's world, in public cloud, you can see the Microsoft Azure, the AWS, the IBM, the Google clouds. All those things can be backed up by Veeam using Veeam's instances or the native backups which are available in Veeam. Right. So all those platforms are being covered in Veeam backup and replication. Then if you talk about the virtual infrastructure, Veeam supports three types of virtual infrastructure, that is VMware, Hyper-V, and Nutanix CHV. And then if you talk about the physical workload, Veeam supports Windows-based workload, Linux-based workloads, Oracle Solaris, SAP HANA. All those workloads are supported using Veeam instances, right? So in all, if I have to sum it up all, Veeam backup and replication can cover your cloud workload, can cover your virtual workload, can cover your physical workload. Then your software as a service is also being covered by Veeam. If you have heard about Office 365, Office 365 is a separate tool in Veeam, which is called as Veeam Backup for Office 365. This has also been covered by Veeam. It can do a backup of your entire Office 365 suite. It's a standalone product. It works very well. Lots of enterprises are loving this product, and this is a hot selling product of Veeam. And this is a very small and simple product. It can be installed on one simple server, or again it can be installed on multiple servers. It does not have much to configure it, but it has lots of features when it comes to restoration, which lots of guys are loving it. So in Veeam we have something called for restoration, which is the most important part, called explorers. So for different workload, Veeam has different explorers, and especially for Office 365, we have something called Veeam Explorer for Exchange, which gives you an GUI view of your entire Exchange database to restore even a single email, even a single file from OneDrive, or even a single site from SharePoint Online. Right? All those things are possible using Veeam Backup for Office 365. As I said, it's a separate tool. So this is whole and soul Veeam backup and replication. Other than that, Veeam had some other products as well, which does some other things. If you go on top of the table where backup and replication is placed, it's called orchestration. Veeam Orchestration is a separate tool which is licensed per VM, and this orchestration is being used for the documentation of your DR, creating your DR plans, testing of your DR plans, and making sure that the DR which you have set up is 100% compliant when it comes to your IT policies, right? So what it does, it will give you, for example, you have one application. That application is connected with your AD, and that application is again connected with one of the database. So in order to do a failover of that application, you need to make sure that all those three workloads are running in a consistent manner. So to do that, you need to do a testing. When you do a failover, all those three workloads uh, are supposed to fail over simultaneously and supposed to come up when it does a failover. So orchestration kind of creates a plan. It does a priority based failover. It gives you a report of it. It tells you how is it working, how will it work. All those plans can be used, can be created, and can be seen using Veeam Availability Orchestrator. Then in the above orchestration, if you go on to the top, you can see monitoring and analytics. This monitoring and analytics in Veeam is called Veeam One. Again, is a separate product, and lots of enterprises are using this product. Reason being, it gives you an visibility of your virtual and backup infrastructure, and it has almost more than 200 inbuilt reports which you can utilize in your infrastructure to generate different kinds of report, different kind of workloads. For example, in your virtual environment, if your one virtual machine is being overutilized or underutilized, Veeam one can detect that. You can have a report of it, and you can create either a report in Excel or PDF format, and you can show it to your management, or you can use it for your IT auditing purposes and all. So this is just one part of report. Like this, you have 200 different templates, and these reports can be further customized as per your requirement. So monitoring Veeam One is a very nice tool. It gives you the capacity planning. It gives you the forecasting of your infrastructure. It again gives you lots of other new features which are being introduced in Veeam One, which you can utilize it in your environment. Along with it, in the same Veeam One, you also get a business view. That business view is very important for an organization. In business view, you can customize your view, and you can create a dashboard of it, and you can present it to your maybe a NOC admin, or maybe your IT administrator, or maybe the management, to have a dashboard which gives you a visibility of your virtual infrastructure. For example, you have some very critical workload which needs to be monitored 24 by 7. So you can create a dashboard of it, and you can present it in front of your screen. So all these types of functionalities are available. As I said, it's customizable. What you can think of, you can do it in Veeam one. All those things are possible. So this, again, as I said, this is a separate product called Veeam one. If you want to have a bundle of it, there is a combination of Veeam backup and replication plus Veeam one called Veeam availability suite. You can buy that product in a bundled way. So if I talk about the Veeam, this is the overall product portfolio of Veeam. Other than that, the last line, if you see, which says universal storage APIs, Veeam provides universal storage APIs to integrate it with their data, right? As I said in the beginning, that Veeam is very flexible, Veeam is very reliable, Veeam is very simple, right? So now when you have backed up your data, that data can be utilized further for your testing environments, for your data mining purposes, for your big data purposes, right? There are lots of other things which can be done using that backed up data. For example, the object storage. In my coming slides, I'm going to talk about it. In V10, Veeam had introduced lots of very nice features with the object-based storages, with the blob storages, right? And the vendors which you can see in the bottom, which is NetApp, Fujitsu, Exagrid, these are your backup repositories, the backup storages. So if you want to have a higher level of DTU, if you want to have a higher level of compression, and you have lots of data which needs to be compressed in backup environment, Veeam integrates with these storages very well, and it provides you a flexibility to utilize, to configure their storage APIs with these storage APIs, and give you performance, a greater performance, and all those things. So if I talk about Veeam, this is the over portfolio of Veeam. Let's go next. Uh, in the beginning, I have said that Veeam is focusing to become a number one vendor in cloud data management. So I have already explained that with Veeam, you can monitor 4 workloads, you can back up 4 workloads, which is cloud, software as a service, virtual, and physical. So if you see on the right hand side, these are the 5 pillars on which Veeam is banking on. First and foremost, the most important product is backup and recovery, which is called Veeam Backup and Recovery, which says that whatever I am backing up using Veeam, whether it is cloud, virtual, or physical, I can recover anything, anywhere, at any time. Guys, when I say recover anything, anywhere, at any time, it really works. And it is a very nice feature. Means Veeam is not locking you with any of the vendor or any of certain kind of workload. Veeam says that if you are backing up using Veeam, in case of a disaster, you always want to restore instantaneously. You don't want to wait for certain type of resources to come up to boot that machine or to restore that machine. What Veeam says that, for example, if you have uh, let's say Active Directory server, right? And that Active Directory server is running on one specific physical server, and that specific physical server had certain resources in it, and certain software binds you to restore it onto the same hardware. But with Veeam, if you are backing up, you can restore that server as a VM instantaneously. You can do an instant VM recovery of that instantaneously, right? All those things are possible. If you have some uh, VM which is running on premise, and your on premise data center is down, you can restore it to cloud. It's that easy, man. So this is what backup and recovery gives you, a flexibility to recover any data anywhere at any point of time. I'll discuss this in detail in coming slides. Then the cloud mobility, I have already explained this. Cloud mobility, You can either backup data from cloud to on-premise or to on-premise to cloud. Both ways it's possible. Means if you want, if for example, if you have Microsoft Azure data center and you are running virtual machine on top of it, you can back up those virtual machine on-premise and utilize Veeam backup replication features, right? And you can recover any data, you can do a granular recovery, you can do a full recovery. All those things are possible anywhere, or if you want to restore it itself into the cloud, that is also possible. So the cloud mobility feature is very important, very easy to install, very easy to configure. Then the third part is the monitoring and analytics. I have already explained that how easy it is to monitor your infrastructure with Veeam 1. It gives you so many templates, it gives you customization, it gives you the business view and other things. Then the fourth part is the orchestration and automation. If you want to document your DR, if you do want to do a kind of automation of your DR, Veeam Availability Orchestrator is the product. Then the most important part is governance and compliance, right? You want to create, you want to make sure that the security is there. You want to make sure that the data which you are backing up is ransomware proof, right? You want to make sure it is GDPR compliant. All those functionalities are available using Veeam, and these are the 5 pillars on which Veeam is banking on, right? So if I go on next, the most important part, Veeam version 10. Everybody is talking about it. What is it? Veeam version 10. Why is it so feature heavy? What are those features which Veeam had introduced? If I have to sum up all, if I have to give you a bullet points, my three main lovable features are: the number one feature is the seriously powerful NAS backup. Today I am going to give you a small demo of it also, the NAS backup. This NAS backup is being introduced in version 10, which lots of organizations are asking for it. And guys, this is a very nice feature or a nice inbuilt tool which Veeam had created in Veeam backup and replication. I'm going to give you a brief technical overview of NAS backup, how we are doing a NAS backup. This is not a traditional NAS backup which is using either an NDMP or something like that. It's altogether a new architecture which Veeam had created, and it's Veeam own architecture, and it seriously does faster NAS backup compared to the competitions. Then the next lovable feature is instant recovery for instant business agility. Means, if you remember, I was saying that the data is very flexible, portable. What does it mean? That with version 10, I can recover any workload. I can do an instant recovery of your workload onto VMware vSphere ESXi. If you, most of you guys are already working on Veeam solution, everybody is aware of what is instant VM recovery, but still I will explain. Instant VM recovery is a process in which you are booting up VM onto an hypervisor instantaneously from backup file, right? So previously there was some limitation. Now I can do multiple instant VM recovery on VMware ESXi instantaneously. Means if your data center is down, you have 100 VMs to boot up instantaneously, you do an instant VM recovery using this engine. It on ESXi, it will boot up instantaneously. And guys, this engine is being redesigned now. In terms of performance, it gives you a very nice performance and all. In terms of IOPS, it gives you very high level of IOPS, so you will not face any kind of performance degradation. Then another new feature which is very interesting, very lovable features, called ransomware protection. So with Veeam, now I can make sure that the data which you are backing up onto an S3 bucket is 100% ransomware proof. It's called an S3 object lock. Means I think you guys are already aware of the fact that Veeam is doing integration with AWS and Azure. With Azure, it's called Azure Blob. With AWS, it's called AWS S3 bucket. So if you are using AWS S3 bucket for your backup copy or for your data backup, with S3 you can lock your objects, and that object cannot be read by any other software in the world, which means it cannot be attacked using any of the ransomware, right? It's a very nice feature. Then uh, you know that Veeam also does SAP and Oracle backups. Those engines are also being redesigned. These are now super fast. You can have multiple layer of parallel processing when it comes to SAP and Oracle backups. That is possible now. Then the most important part for the Linux lovers, in Veeam we have something called backup proxy. In Veeam backup and replication, this is one of the component which does most of the processing. And we say in Veeam backup and replication, it's the heart and soul of the Veeam backup and replication software. And this component generally consumes lots of the resources because this component does processing of your data. So before V10, this component was only being installed on Windows platform, and lots of guys were asking for for that component to be installed on Linux, because generally Linux consumes less resources, it has less footprints and all, and it does not consume Windows license as well. So lots of theories behind it was there. So what Veeam had done in this version 10, Veeam had introduced a Linux proxy, and along with it we have also increased the Linux portfolio, and we have also started doing an application consistent backup of MySQL and PostgreSQL, right? And then the next part, which Veeam justifies it very well, called 321. In backup industry everybody is aware of the fact what is 321. If you want to protect your data, you have to follow 321 rule. 3 copies of your data, two on different media, one offsite, right? With Veeam you can justify this rule very well. You have lots of options to justify your rule. Okay, you can keep a first copy of backup on premise, second copy can go to your cloud storage, whether that is Azure Blob or AWS S3, and the third copy can go to your DR site, right? There are multiple scenarios which you can create using Veeam. Veeam does not lock you with any of the scenario. With Redington launch, you can integrate your blob storages, your Azure, your AWS S3 storages, or any other compatible storages, and keep a backup copy onto those storages. So then you can also do a DR. So all those scenarios are justifiable using Veeam, and you can have your your Veeam and replication running in a better way, and you can have an advantage of your data in a better way. Now when it comes to backup, when it comes to replication, why you are backing up? So that you can recover your data instantaneously, right? So recovery is an important part after doing a backup. So you have done the backup is done faster, very great, it's been saved in the backup repository, great, it's been saved in the object storage, is great. But what about why you are doing a backup? So that you can recover your data whenever you want, right? So the most important part is the fastest recovery, how fast you can recover your data. As I mentioned earlier, I have already explained this feature: instantly recover multiple VMs in a go. Guys, just imagine in a scenario, if your entire data center fails, right? You have 100 VMs, your ESXi cluster had gone down. What you will do, man? To recover those 100 VMs, it takes time. It takes maybe an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hours, depends on the size of the data. Business cannot afford that much of downtime, right? So what you need to instantly boot up those 100 VMs onto an ESXi. Use this feature, guys. Instantly recover 100 VMs or whatever number of VMs you have instantaneously. You don't have to recover the whole data, right? So this is called faster recovery. Then your Oracle database recovery. If you guys are following Veeam, Veeam does an Oracle database backup using Armin. So with this, we have something called Oracle Explorer. If you want to recover something using those Oracle Explorer, now that Explorer has been redesigned, and it gives you an flexibility to recover your data in point in time to a staging server or to a different server. That is also possible. And then your databases. One thing is your Oracle databases. Second thing is your other databases, which either is, for example, SQL. In SQL, there are you can do table level recovery, you can do row level recovery. All those things are possible using Veeam Explorer or SQL. Or you want to recover a SharePoint site, all those things are possible. The recovery is very faster, right? Then how smartly you can leverage your data. For example, if it is Nutanix CHV, Veeam is supporting, Veeam is doing a backup of Nutanix CHV as well. Now with version 10, we have started monitoring AHV also with some of the features. So these all features are involved, are introduced in version 10. Then you can also monitor your NAS backup, which is your file data, using Veeam 1. You can also unleash your backed up data. For example, if you want to do some kind of analytics, you want to do big data mining, all those things are possible using the Veeam backed up data. Veeam provides you the APIs, and Veeam also gives you a flexibility. If you want to do a longer term archive, long term archivation, all those things are possible using Veeam. When it can be done either onto in cloud storages, it can be done onto in cheaper storages, it can be done on DR storages. So there are multiple ways you can configure this. Now, when it comes to the backup and recovery, which is the main product of Veeam, I have already explained that you can back up the cloud workload, you can back up virtual, you can back up physical workload. Everything is application consistent backup, right? Guys, this term is very important. Application consistent means when you are taking a backup of those three workloads, the the data which is inside running in that operating system, the application which is running inside that should be in a consistent way when you are doing a backup. So Veeam takes care of that very well. If you are aware of the sure backup feature, right? Sure backup feature is what? Sure backup feature, we are booting up a VM in an isolated environment, and we are doing three tests, which is heartbeat, ping, and application test. And we, once these tests are performed, we provide you a report of it, and we tells you that the data which you have backed up is 100% recoverable. So if, just imagine guys, if in a virtual machine, if these three tests are performed, it means the data which is running inside that operating system is 100% recoverable, right? So we do all those things, all those tests, and we make sure that the data which you are backing up is 100% application consistent. It also gives you a 100% guarantee that the data which you have backed up is recoverable, which is called testing of your backups. Sure backup, sure replica, sandboxing, virtual labs, all those things are possible. These all are the terms of Veeam, which most of you are already aware of it. Then Veeam gives you no lockage. Veeam gives you a freedom. Veeam is purely an software based company. Uh, it has nothing to do with any hardware. This can be installed on x86, x64, or Intel or AMD. Anywhere it can be installed. It can be installed on virtual machine. It can be installed on physical servers. It can be installed on one server. It can be installed on multiple servers. Depends on the scenario, right? So it does not lock you. Veeam is completely an hardware agnostic tool, which is purely a software based tool, which can be installed on multiple or single one server. Yeah. And as I said, when we are saying application consistent backup, we are supporting Active Directory, Exchange, SQL, SharePoint, Oracle, SAP, HANA, etc., etc. Yeah. Enhanced instant recovery. I have already explained this, but once again, let me share it with you. instantly recover any backup from any platform to VMware vSphere ESXi. Guys, just imagine how cool this feature is. You don't have to, for example, if you are running a cloud VM, right? Cloud VM goes down. Somehow, let's say it goes down. Maybe it's an operating system issue. Maybe it's an application issue. It's not coming up. Yeah. So what you can do, you have a backup of it. You have an ESXi running on premise. Do an instant VM recovery to ESXi. Boom, it's up and running. So this will be instantaneously running. Means you don't have to wait for those resources to come up automatically. Not automatically, you have to do it, but automatically it will do all the settings from the backend, and your virtual machines are up and running. Then you can do it for multiple VMs instantaneously. Then, as I said, this engine has been redesigned. This is much more faster, much more resource efficient, works very well. It's very nice feature. It's been introduced in version 10. Then the most important part is the most lovable feature, NAS backup. Let's talk about this, guys. What is NAS backup, right? If you talk about NAS, network attached storages, that storage in a data center which has lots of garbage data as well as important data, right? That NAS can be installed on some low end device, or that NAS can be a high-end device which is attached with your storages. So in Veeam, I can do uh, I can support these four types of NAS storages. We support SMB share, we support NFS share, we support Windows file server, we support Linux file server, right? All those support protocols are supported when it comes to NAS. Then why our NAS backup is faster. Okay, I have one slide wherein I have one technical diagram of the NAS architecture, wherein I will explain you what is change file tracking. Okay, here as it is mentioned in this slide, you can see generally NAS is what you have one folder, and behind that folder, inside that folder, you have multiple folders, and each folder has some files installed in it, right? And those files are being accessed by multiple users, and continuously those users are modifying the data. So in a scenario, generally what happens, nobody is modifying the entire tree. Some of the attributes of one of the folder inside one of the files are being modified only, right? So how this change file tracking is working, I'll explain you in my coming slide. Then it's snapshot friendly, guys. When you are doing a NAS backup, whosoever NAS is supporting and snapshot based backup that supports it, Veeam works with it very well. And if it is not snapshot friendly, Veeam doesn't crash consistent backup. But at the end of the job, at the end of that backup, it scans for another round of the backup, and it see if there is any other unlocked file available. Point in time recovery is possible, and you can also offload those backups to the cheapest storages, which are like blobs, which are like S3s or any other object based storages, right? So all those options are available using Enhanced. So if I have to show you, this is how it looks like in version 10. If you want, once your NAS backup is done, how do you restore it? This is how you can do. You can do a point in time recovery, you can do an entire file share, or you can restore individual files and folders, right? So before V10 in NAS, how we were doing the backup, we were doing kind of smaller NDMP backup, which is always slow to respond. File to tape was not scalable. No backup option as such for disk. All those things were presented there, but now it is no longer available. What can Veeam backup do? As I mentioned clearly, we can do SMB backup, we can do NFS share backup, which includes either a Windows or a Linux based platform, right? I'll show you in my brief demo how it works. Then your simplified technical overview, how Veeam is achieving a faster NAS backup. NAS is generally an unstructured data which either carries a file share, let's say MP3s, the music videos, blah blah blah, right? So how we are achieving a faster layer of backup? We are doing lots of parallel reads, right? We are not doing one tunnel of streaming, we are doing multiple tunnel of streaming, and we are trying to get the data in multiple ways, right? This is called massive parallel processing. I'll explain you what exactly it is in my technical architecture slide. Then our incremental backup. Obviously, once your full backup is finished, the most important part is your incremental backup. How fast your incremental backup is. This Veeam NAS backup for the incremental part is super fast because of certain technology, because of change file tracking, which I'm going to explain in the next slide. That's why it is faster compared to other backups, right? Then uh, as most of you are already aware, when Veeam does the backup, it goes to Veeam backup repository and it creates one small single file which is called .vbk. .vbk is Veeam's own file extension which is Veeam backup file format, right? It's entirely one file which has entire data. But in this case, for the NAS backup, we have like 4 or 5 different formats on which Veeam NAS backup works. Because of the structure of the NAS, because NAS has lots of folders, files. So that's the reason it's a new format which has been introduced. So that format can keep a NAS backup of starting from TVs to petabytes, etc., etc. And as always, compression is built in, right? Everybody is already aware of the fact that Veeam does compression and dedupe at job level for the virtual, physical, and cloud workloads. Similarly, for the NAS backup, also we do compression at job level. Now let's talk about the technical overview of the NAS. So I have to quick this. So as you can see in the source, I either have SMB, NFS, or Linux or Windows based workload. So in NAS backup, we have introduced a newer component, something called file proxies. Similarly, if you are aware of the fact that Veeam has a component called Veeam Backup Proxy, which takes care of virtual cloud and physical workload, which processes the data. We have introduced new component file proxy. Again, this component itself processes the data, but this only processes your NAS backup data, your NAS data, right? This component also requires resources. Along with this component, there is another new component which is being introduced. If you can see on the bottom, is called cache repository, coordinator or cache repository. This cache repository is a separate component which keeps an cache file and hash file of your entire NAS tree, right? So what happened? For example, you have scheduled a job. Now your job has triggered and file proxy is reading the data from your source, which is, for example, if it is SMB share. Now in SMB share, you have multiple folders, multiple files, and you have a very long tree of the entire share. Now when file proxy takes that backup, it keeps a copy of that tree in the cache repository. That cache repository, once the first full backup is done, and once your file proxy had processed the entire data, entire file, and it goes to your backup repository, which is short-term retention. Now your first full backup is finished. Now on the second day, some of the data has been modified with, let's say, some of the root folder, not in the root, then maybe inside that root folder, which is inside maybe hundreds of folders. So what happened when you do an incremental backup? Instead of scanning the whole tree, this cache repository has the information of the block which has been changed in which folder or in which file. So what it does, instead of scanning the whole NFS or whole SMB share, it goes to that change block and only backed up that change block tracking, only back up that block using change file tracking technology, which is being built by Veeam. So what did you achieve? You have saved the time to scan the whole structure, right? So what you did, that cache repository is responsible to understand, to keep a track of that block which has been changed. So this cache will only transport that block which is being changed. So what does it result? It results in the faster incremental backups, which is the most important feature, which is the most important thing when it comes to NAS, right? Then your backup is going to shorter term retention, which is your backup repository. Then yes, as usual, you can either do it long term archiving on maybe object based storage, blob based storage, or you can keep a secondary copy somewhere in your secondary location on any of the storages, right? So this is the kind of overview of Veeam NAS uh, features. And then when it comes to the management, obviously you can recover it using Veeam backup and replication tool. You can manage it using enterprise manager. You can monitor it using Veeam one. So this is how it works. So let me just give you a brief overview how it works. Let me see if my Veeam backup and replication is running. Yeah. Oh shit. Okay. Let me try to run it. This is my Veeam backup and replication. Guys, this is the most important feature, and that's why I wanted to show you a brief demo of it. Let's see if it comes up. Actually, everything is running on my laptops. That's why it would be little bit slow, but it will come up. So till the time it comes up, okay, it's coming up, looks like. Yeah. So I'm sure lots of guys have gone through the documents of the Veeams and all. So in the meantime, when it comes up, I would just like to tell you one thing: the Veeam version 10 new features. If you want to know about all the features, go to www.veeam.com. They have one very nice document, which is Veeam V10 release note. It's a 16 pages PDF file which has explained all the new features which Veeam had introduced. I have not covered all the features, guys. So for you to understand all those features, go through that document. It's a very long 16-page document which gives you a visibility of all the features. So most of you are already aware of this console. This is Veeam Backup Replication console. Now in this console, this is version 10 console. If you see how you do a backup of your SMB file, this is your, if you click on inventory, this is how it looks like. uh, in inventory there is one new tab which has been added, which is called file share. If you can see here on the left hand side, file share is visible. Now you need to add your NAS share on top of it, right? You just need to click on add file share. Once you click on add file share, you see three types of tabs. Either you can add file server, you can add NFS share, you can add SMB share, right? These are the three options which you get. So I have already added one SMB share, which I will show you here. If you can see on the bottom, it says SMB share. If you can see, I have already added one. I will edit this and I'll show you what all options you get when you are adding an SMB file share. Here you need to provide an share path. Then you need to provide the access user credentials which can access this share. So along with it, you can have advanced option. You remember I have told you that backup directly from the file share, or you can use Microsoft VSS snapshot. If VSS snapshots are not available, automatically it will fail over to the normal snapshot, or automatically it will do another level of SMB3 file backing up, right? So this is what you can do. Go to next. In next, when you do a processing, it will apply all the processes. I think I missed one component, yeah, which is this file proxy. Here you are defining a file proxy. So by default, it chooses all proxies. So in my case, I have only one proxy, but if you have bigger NAS infrastructure, you can have multiple file backup proxies, and you can choose for which job you want to use which uh, proxy. Then this is your cache repository. Remember that cache repository coordinator which keeps a track of your change file tracking. Here you need to define that component. In my case, I'm using the same backup and replication tool. uh, then the most interesting feature is the backup IO control, guys. If we talk about NAS storages are generally those storages which are very slow to respond, right? These are not your production storages, but still some organizations are keeping multiple data on that NAS storages. Somebody is using it as a file share for the users, and users are saving their important files, Excel files, their Word files, or maybe some other files on their NAS storages. But that NAS storage is not so powerful NAS storages, because when it comes to NAS, it can be very cheap storage as well, or it can be a very high end storage. So when Veeam does a backup, Veeam does not want to impact your production environment when it is doing a backup, because just when you have 100 TB of NAS and that 100 TB is being utilized by user, when I'm doing a backup, I don't want that cheapest NAS to die. When I'm doing a backup, all the resources are being consumed by my backup server. So what it will result, your users will not be able to access that NAS, or either it will be damn slow. So you can define a latency here in the backup IO control. So if you are using a very low end of kind of NAS, you can keep it at lower impact. It will try to minimize the parallel stream, and in terms of the impact on the on your production storages, on your NAS storages. Or if you have a very high end NAS wherein you have configured all the policies, you can keep a faster backup, right? So this is as per your job configuration, as per your NAS, which kind of NAS you have. So in my case, I'm using the lower impact. Click on apply. Once you click on apply, this is how it looks like. The normal Veeam windows. See guys, everything is GUI driven. Everything is easy to configure. I haven't done any rocket science. So just click on next, finish. So once you've done this, you can see a NAS share has been added. Once you add a NAS share, after that you need to do a backup job, right? So creating a backup job, there are multiple ways of creating a backup job. I have already created one backup job for file. Let me edit this job and I'll show you what all options we get. Um, as usual, name your job, um, add your share. So in my case, I have only one SMB share which is added, so that's why it's only showing one. You can add multiple if you have, right? Click on it, see the advanced option. This is again a very nice and important feature, guys. NAS backup, right? And unstructured data, which has a combination of production data and garbage data. If you want to exclude some specific files, for example, .mp3 files, you can define an extension here. Those extensions will not be included while the backup is happening. So this exclusion is very important part. So if you don't want certain type of data to be backed up by Veeam, you can do an exclusion here, right? So this is again, I just wanted to highlight. So then if you click on next, you need to define your backup repository. As usual, same console, define your backup repository. Here is the versioning for how many versions you want to keep for those files. So here you can see you have two options, days or months, right? Whether you want to keep it for 28 days or whether you want to keep it for 28 months, depends on your retention policies. You can do it, you can configure these policies. Then keep your file versions for 3 years. For example, if you have an archiving policy, so after a certain point of time, let's say after 90 days or after 28 days, you want to archive your data, so you can define a cheapest storage, which either can be a blob storage, either can be a S3 storage, either can be a DR storage, or any other cheaper storage for longer term archiving, right? Then again, the same level of options. If you see, the permission and the attributes, it intact as it is, right? You can define those things. So at folder level, you can see by default it's being done. by default it's being enabled, or if you want to do at file level also, that is also possible, that you have to check it here. So what it done, if you are choosing this option, maybe this will slower your performance a bit. Then compression, as I said, by default Veeam does compression. You can also enable encryption if you want. Ransomware protection, everybody wants it. Then obviously your notification, if you want to do a notification and all, that is also possible. Now once this is done, let me remove this secondary. uh, Click on next. If you have any secondary repository other than that, means that is your, you remember 3-2-1 rule. So here you are having first copy in your backup repository, second copy in your secondary repository. Maybe if you want some other copy which is maybe on your DR side, that also can be added here, secondary target, right? 3-2-1 justification is how easy it is. Put your schedule. Once the schedule is done, you can do a backup of your uh, NAS shares. So since you can see, I have already done one backup. Backup is done. It's very easy. Now let me show you the important part. Once the backup is finished, you can see everybody is aware of this console. You can see your files will come here like this. Then the most important part, the restoration, how you can restore. Multiple ways for restoring a data. You see entire file share, roll back to a point in time, or files and folders. Let me click entire file share. Once I click in, another explorer is supposed to open, which will give you a GUI view of restoration. So in my case it is little bit slower, but it will come up. So let this thing come up. Yeah, so yes, see how easy it is to restore, right? You can see when I clicked on restore point, there are, I have done the backup, first job was run at 15 days ago. So if I click in here, you can see this is my latest restore point. So using the slider I can change my restore points. You can see, I think it's not visible, but this is my next previous restore point. If I click here, this is my previous restore point. So I have total 4 restore point. You can do it using the slider, as well as you can click on this and you can check your schedule. You can see I have done the backup on 6th, 8th, 15th. So you can choose which restore point you want to restore, right? So let's say if I'm using the latest one, I choose this, choose this. You can see a GUI view at the bottom. These are the files which are presented in that share. Click on next. Either you can do it on original location, you can do it on some other location, depends on you. Click on next. Once you do, you get this option, skip restoring, restore anyway, overrides, blah blah blah. And the bottom you can see restore permission and security attributes. If it is your file share, all the security permissions would be restored the way it was backed up. Yeah, guys, just use this option carefully, because this is related with your file and permissions. So if you are restoring it to some other location which does not have, the reachability to your active directories and all, then all those permissions will be lost while restoring. Just an heads up. So once you do a next, it will do a restoration. So the purpose of this to showing you is how easy it is restore. It's a brief demo. How easy it is to add your file share. How easy it is to back up your NAS shares. So this is it. If you have any questions related with it, you guys can ask me. Let me see. So let me answer this. Yes, as secondary destination. Is there any other question other than this? I can't see any other new question popping up. So, guys, thank you so much for your time and attending this webinar. If you have any questions related with it, you guys can call me at any point of time. You have my email ID. It was mentioned in the beginning, or else you can contact Redington at any point of time. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay inside, and hopefully we'll meet once again. Thank you so much, guys, for your time.